Okay, welcome back to Faery Craft. Last time I used up like way too much time and it cut out, but I'm gonna see how far I can get this time. We're gonna talk about theories that Fae might be ancestors and spirits of the dead as well as aliens, and we might get to more depending on how much time. So, in Lewis Spence's book, The Magic Arts in Celtic Britain, he writes, in the Western Isles of Scotland, the Slaw, or fairy host, was regarded as composed of the souls of the dead flying through the air, and the Feast of the Dead at Halloween was likewise the festival of the fairies. Fairies and the spirits of the dead have long been associated in Celtic folklore and mystical belief. Whereas most see the fairies as a race of beings in their own right, they are undeniably connected to the realm of the dead, and there are some who believe them to be one and the same. The Sidhe of Ireland are named for the same burial mounds in which the ancestors rest, and the banshee, or fairy woman, who gives an eerie scream into the night when the member of a particular family is about to die, is often referred to as a ghost or ancestral spirit. Folklore is replete with tales of departed relatives being sighted in the company of fairies, and there are numerous mentions of precognitive visions of this nature, where the person spotted in the company of the fairies dying a short time afterwards. Akin to the belief that fairy beings may in fact be the spirits of the restless dead is the theory that they are a memory of our ancient ancestors, who lived in turf-covered homes and were short and dark. Perhaps in some cases this may be true, and this memory has passed down through folklore. Indeed, some places may hold strong memories of earlier times, and people that we may witness as echoes in the energy of the land. But this theory comes nowhere near to explaining the wide variety of beings that may be encountered within fairy, nor the powers that they undoubtedly hold. As to the association with days such as Samhain, a festival in which the dead may be invited to feast with us and share their tales, This also is no clear evidence for fairies being interchangeable with the ancestors or recently deceased. But again, it does show a connection. Both fairies and the dead dwell on the other side of the veil, between the worlds, where all is mysterious to us. At times such as Samhain, other cross-quarter days, and the solstices and equinoxes, the veil grows thin, and visions of both fairy and spirits of the dead are more likely. If indeed they inhabit the same realm, is it any wonder they are sometimes seen together? It has already been noted that many goddesses, who are also fairy queens, rule both over fairy and the dead. But it is not implied that they are the same. It makes sense that if a queen is ruling a realm, she will rule all the inhabitants of that realm, even if their natures are different. As R.J. Stewart, the respected teacher of the fairy tradition, notes, there is a crossover between the idea of the dead and the fairy beings, but they really are quite distinct. The key thing being that the fairy beings have never been human. Another notable difference is that generally once a spirit has passed over, they will not return to the land of the living, whereas fairy beings have the ability to pass between the worlds as they wish. Most instances of ghosts are either energetic recordings imprinted on the atmosphere or restless dead who have not passed over for some reason. Spiritual contact via mediums with those who have passed over can be compared to shamanic work, where the medium being literally that, a mediator between the worlds. Considering the nature of fairy and how we perceive energetically through a number of filters, including memory, preconceived ideas, and other impressions from around us, it seems very possible that we might, for instance, see trooping fairies appear as soldiers in period uniform if a battle took place where there is also fairy activity. This may well add to the confusion between the two. I mess up a lot, and generally when I mess up, I'll just, I have to keep redoing it, and I'll reread the same thing a whole bunch of times. But then I decided I don't really care if I mess up, because it doesn't matter. People mess up. People make mistakes. It is an accepted part of fairy lore that human souls may be taken into fairy after death, or sometimes physically while still alive. So we may well encounter human spirits acting as guides or envoys in our dealings with fairy. This is often the case if someone has had a strong interest and connection with fairy in life, as with Reverend Robert Kirk, who was famously taken into fairy in 1692, and has been seen in vision and meditation by many since as an otherworldly envoy. It is also a considerable possibility, therefore, that fairy beings may take the journey in the other direction and be born into human bodies. These are all mysteries from which we may receive insights, fleeting visions, and flashes of inspiration, but the ultimate knowledge remains obscured. Our astral selves may pay a fleeting visit to the other world in journey, meditation, or dreams, but we will never truly experience it until we ourselves fully pass over, and those who walk between the worlds must always keep one foot on solid ground. However, through the contact that we do have, we can easily ascertain that though there is indeed a strong connection, there is much more to fairy beings than simply the departed souls of humans and our ancestors. Aliens. A very modern theory about the origin of fairy beings is that they are actually visitors from another world, as opposed to the other world. Advocates of this theory propose that before the days of science fiction, moon landings, and television, the only explanation people could have for strange lights in the sky or strange-looking people with unusual clothing is that they were a race of magical beings, or fairies. There are many intriguing parallels. Crop circles are associated with both fairies dancing and with UFOs landing, though whether either of these is actually responsible is difficult to say. Descriptions of alien sightings often fit exactly with certain types of fairy beings, from slender, delicate, and almond eyes to extremely large and hairy. Also, there is frequently reported loss of time phenomenon, as well as, a well-known symptom of fairy contact, and of course, abduction, which is a huge part of both ancient fairy folklore and modern folklore of alien visitation. Interestingly, many sightings of UFOs report that they originated not from the sky, but from under the ground or the sea. In fact, this theory is of much more interest when looked at the other way around. Although in this vast and unknowable universe, it is not impossible that we would be visited by sentient beings from another world, from what we already know of fairy, we can easily see that many modern sightings of aliens and UFOs could, in fact, be fairy experiences. Since fairy beings often take their appearance from the human mind, in addition to the filters within the mind that influence how one perceives energy beings, it is highly possible that in these times of technology and popular science fiction, a fairy being could be interpreted as an alien visitation. Perhaps both explanations have some truth in them. Who's to say we are not perhaps sometimes visited by the astral forms of fairy beings from other worlds, or indeed that the many instances of similar occurrences may all have different origins and explanations. There are many mysteries in this world. There are a number of respected authors who claim that ancient civilizations were visited by ancient astronauts who brought with them knowledge of stellar cartography. The Dogon people of Mali, which is in Western Africa, claim to have been visited in ancient times by tribes from among the stars, who taught them much about mathematics and movements of the stars and planets. Early accounts of the children of Danu arrival in Ireland talk of them arriving in flying ships or great clouds. So if you believe in alien visitation, it's not such a wild theory. Certainly the idea that the fairy race that dwells in the earth has cosmic origins is a very ancient one, with its roots in Celtic folklore. We do have time to go on to other theories. Okay, fallen angels. W.Y. Evans Wentz wrote, "Not of the seed of Adam are we, nor is Abraham our father, but of the seed of the proud angel driven forth from heaven." Celtic folklore tells us that fairies are the angels who were pulled down with Lucifer when he left heaven and were unable to return, the doors to heaven being shut after them to prevent any more angels from following. Since they did not wish to live in hell either, they made a home in earth's hollow places. Since this lore is passed down through obviously biased Christian priests, to whom the fairy race were for the most part devils, and at best to be pitied, it is easy to dismiss this origin theory as being simply anti-pagan propaganda. It is interesting to note, however, that there is a very similar tale within Muslim culture of the origin of the jinn, a race of fiery, airy beings, who are the Arabic equivalent of the fairy race, and the origin of the wish-granting genie we are familiar with. When God orders the angels in heaven to bow down and worship the newly created man, the leader of the angels, Iblis, the Islamic equivalent to Lucifer, refuses and is cast out to become the leader of the Shaitan, the race of fallen jinn from whom the name Satan derives. There are undeniable connections between the angel, demon, and fairy races, and if we can free ourselves from prejudice and preconceptions and approach the subject with a curious and open mind, we can learn much of the deeper mystical nature of our fairy cousins and their function within the world and the cosmos. On the more obvious level, the parallels are clear. Both fairy beings and angels are powerful, shining beings, possessed of their own inner source of luminescence. Both are credited as being sources of inspiration and are particularly associated with inhumanly beautiful music and dancing. And they are both most popularly portrayed as, and perceived as winged beings. Angels and fairy beings both have a resonance within the light of the stars, and the angels are seen to dwell there, whereas the fairy race dance beneath the stars and sing to them, and emit something of that stellar power into our green world. This takes us into a deeper level and adds some spiritual credence to the fallen angel theory. Looking beyond the Judeo-Christian and Islamic religion's framework, and seeing the fairy and angelic races as beings of cosmic energy who are far older than any human theological concept, if angels are the agents of cosmic energies and messengers of the spiritual source from above, then fairy beings can be seen as angels of the inner earth, having brought the energy from the source down into the center of the earth, breathing spiritual life into its center, and now radiating that energy outwards from within, connecting the earth to the web of the universe and enabling sentient spiritual life to evolve. It must not be overlooked that the core of our planet itself radiates its own cosmic energy. It is the star within our Earth that illuminates the other world. The name Lucifer means light bringer, so returning to the folklore with the added dimension gained by looking beyond it, we can see the wisdom hidden behind the dogma. If God is in fact the source of spiritual light, then Lucifer is in fact the agent of this light sent to Earth. There are also parallels, therefore, between Jesus as the Son of God sent to Earth to redeem humankind and the fall of Lucifer, which, though seemingly straying from the subject of fairy craft, gives interesting food for thought. Quite literally food for thought when we consider Lucifer's connection to the apple of the tree of knowledge, which first brought wisdom to humanity, and how the primal beauty of fairy can be compared to the Garden of Eden. Shit, I'm at 11, I mean, shoot. I meant to say shoot. I'm at 11 minutes already. I'm going to go ahead and end this here, but when I come back, I will finish talking about the fallen angel theory, then we'll talk about the world soul theory, and then we'll get to talking about fairy culture and all that good stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it. Like if you liked, comment, subscribe. Yeah.